Today in print media reporting, we will discuss about the sources of news. News is a byproduct of context. It is said by the celebrity journalist Durga Das, who, as a reporter himself, had scored many exclusive stories. It is also said a reporter is only as good as his sources. We can also define source in simple words: whoever and whatever can supply information that goes to make news is a news source. By this definition, a source could be a person, a document, a record, a report, or a publication. In the digital era, websites have become an additional source of information, though this needs to be used with extreme care, caution, and discretion. As Harold Evans, former editor of The Times, London, has said, news is people. It is people talking and people doing. Committees and cabinets and courts are people. So are fires, accident, and planning decision. They are only news because they involve and affect people. The success of reporting lies primarily in reaching out to and tapping people who know. They are the real sources of news in the day-to-day reporting. There are different types of news sources. Many of them are commonly available to others, such as much as to you, like a press conference, a hospital beat, a public meeting in the town, a press release from a political party or a government department, etc. Such known or common sources generate lot of news every day. You need only to do some systematic planning to get to know about them. But this is an area of news coverage for which you share the credit with the reporters who may also be covering the same events. The real taste of your reporting comes when you pursue stories independently and on your own initiative or that you of your organization. Such news can be anticipated, planned, and covered on the basis of your contacts and observation. Most of the exclusive coverage falls in the category of anticipated sources of news. Okay, so let's come upon the types of news sources. First is known sources. Second, we will discuss about anticipated sources. Third one is unexpected sources. And fourth one is follow-ups. So we'll start with the known sources. We know that all crimes are supposed to be registered with the police and are investigated by it. With it beat system and other methods of criminal intelligence, prevention, investigation, and control of crime, and cases reported to it by the people. The police is expected to be a repository of all information about the commission of crime. Hospitals and clinics are the places from where reporters can know the situation about any abnormal incidents of disease affecting people on a large scale. So, we know where to go to get the news about certain situations, events, and activities. These all are known sources of news. Sources of news. Unless the reporter knows a source of news relating to the subject he has been assigned to cover and knows who to contact, he would be incapable of doing his job. The known sources can be identified under the following subheads. First one is police, hospitals, cremation grounds, burial grounds, and mortuary, fire services, courts, etc. The reporter covering these areas must regularly check up with concerned authorities, more than once every day in order to keep himself updated. He must also check up for the last time in the day before going to print or broadcasting the news bulletin. The court reporter must report important cases firsthand from the courts. Since he cannot be present in all the courts at the same time, he may take the help of reliable lawyers, but should never totally depend on them to know who said what in the courtroom. It is always safe to check up with court officials about any judgment, order, direction, or remark passed by the judge or the magistrate. Second, meetings, conferences, rallies, demonstrations, festivals, social and cultural meets, etc. If the reporter has live contacts with organizers of such events, or his office maintains a proper diary of likely events, he would be well informed about them. Better still, if he himself keeps enlarging his contacts with the office bearers of respective organizations for the future, particularly of the new organizations he comes in contact with. Third is press conferences, briefings, statements, press releases, announcements, reports, and seminars. Contact with those who address the press conferences, give briefings, issue statements or press releases, etc. can help a lot in drawing out the right answers or getting direct clarifications from them. Absence of contacts prove disadvantageous to those reporters who have not built them. Next is meetings and proceedings of local bodies, state legislatures, and parliament. It is a lot helpful to know closely the chairpersons, councillors, MLAs, MPs, and officials of local bodies and legislatures in covering their proceedings and other activities, like visits and programs of VIPs, witness and victim of crime, accidents, calamities, etc. These are generally on the spot sources who have either seen an event happening or have a first-hand knowledge of some vital aspect of it. There are those have been involved or affected by the event. Next is anticipated sources. The dictionary meaning of the word anticipation is to see what is going to happen and act accordingly. Is most apt in the context of news sources. In the anticipated sources of news, what a reporter should do is to look ahead and see what is likely to happen in coming days, weeks, and months with the potential of offering news. He should then plan and prepare in advance to cover it in the best possible manner. There are numerous things that happen on fixed dates. For example, India's Republic Day, January 26, Mahatma Gandhi's birthday, October 2nd, Americans' National Day, July 4, Makar Sankranti, January 14, or Teachers' Day, September 5. Certain things take place around certain times of the year or during certain seasons. For instance, the country's civilian awards are announced on the occasion of the Republic Day. Nobel Prizes start being announced from September. Durga Puja and Dashera festivals are held in the month of October or November. Union budget is presented in Parliament on the last working day of February every year, except when the Lok Sabha is in the state of dissolution or is in the process of election. US presidential elections are held on the second Tuesday of November every 4 years. Similarly, there are certain problems which visit us periodically in certain situations like flood during the monsoon and drought following the failure of adequate rains. Sowing, harvesting, and other agricultural operations are performed in more or less seasonal cycles. When a particular disease may appear in epidemic form can also be foreseen on the basis of past records. We can say Anticipated sources offer endless possibilities for meaningful reporting. Some of them are presentation of budget, announcements of fixed time policies, elections, annual general meetings, etc. All governments are bound by the constitution to present their annual budget in the legislature and seek its approval. A government which fails to get its budget passed by legislature has to go. Also, there are certain policies such as monetary policy and the export-import policy, which are announced periodically by the Reserve Bank of India and the Union Commerce Ministry respectively. Second one is investigation of problems, impact of policies and programs, forthcoming important events, periodic measures to deal with expected emergencies like floods, droughts, epidemics, etc. We can say problems are galore in the country. They are always waiting to be investigated into and brought to light. So, the reporter needs to identify the problems, probe them to make stories about them. Similarly, we can say reporters can inquire into the impact of various policies and programs. Useful stories can also be done by finding out what preparation has been made by the government to cope up with emergencies that may occur, such as floods and epidemics. Next is constitutional and statutory activities, meeting of commissions, annual reports of government departments, periodic economic reviews, like the ones by Reserve Bank of India, National Council of Applied Economic Research, etc. We can say there are different kinds of constitutional and statutory functions which the president at the center and the governor in the state has to perform. The constitution requires the president to make an address before the first session of parliament each year and the first session after the general election to the Lok Sabha. He also summons and prorogues every session. Next is weather forecast and harvest forecasts. As we all know, weather is an important element of news. It is a continuous source of stories. Whether is too hot or too cold or too wet, people wait for the news of some kind of relief from the weatherman through the reporter who brings it to. Next and last one is announcement of prestigious awards and honors like Padma Awards, Sahitya Academy Awards, Nobel Prizes, Magsaysay Prize, Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi Samman, Patrakarita Bhushan Samman, Bharat Bharti Samman, Arjun Awards, Tansen Samman, Prem Bhatia Prize, etc. We can say such news items interest most of the people and they can be anticipated because all prestigious award and honors are announced at fixed interval of time. Now, unexpected sources. Unexpected, which is not expected. So, under this, the sources are accidental but often result of keen observation. Unexpected sources we can often identify after keen observation, incidental and unknown people. For example, a strange looking person was accidentally found alone by a group of trekkers in the deep jungle of Amazon Valley in South America. The person tried to escape into the thick woods but was somehow pursued to stop. It transpired that he had been hiding in the solitary conditions of the jungle since the World War II, lest he should be caught by enemy troops. Suppose you are traveling in a bus and people sitting next to you from a distant village are talking in a hush-hush manner about some terrorists trying to take shelter in their village. You happen to be listening to their conversation but trying to look unconcerned, like You're not listening to him. You try to figure out the implications of talk and decide to go to the bottom of it. You leave the bus at the next stop and rush straight to the village and travelers were talking about. There you meet the person, be friend with him, and sympathize with his cause. Many a time, unknown people walk into your chamber or house to narrate their woes. You investigate the matter and discover it to be a part of pattern of some wrongdoing, which needs to be exposed in the larger public interest. And last is follow-ups. A large number of news items daily served by the media are the result of the follow-up technique. There are stories which may be still developing when the deadline is reached for the publication for the day or remain incomplete due to non-availability of full detail. Such stories are followed up later with more stories till all the important facts have been reported, as in the case of train accident, an air crash, or a big economic scandal like 2G spectrum scam. There may be a significant statement expected to be made on a particular day by the Prime Minister or a long-awaited Supreme Court judgment listed to be pronounced on a certain date. Such news constitute fixed day follow-ups. The stories have to be reported again and again with newer facts and angles in follow-ups. A large part of the day's total news fall in the result of follow-ups. Many stories do not close forever with the first day coverage. Some stories keep developing even for the months and more. So unfortunately, the Indian media gravely lacks in the area, and if often to see that when the media comes with a great story which creates a big sensation all over the country, they want to tell it what to be next, but very often they do not get it. Sometimes a follow-up is done for day or two and then the progress of story is forgotten forever, whereas the story still has a great potential of revealing more important facts and yield more news. So follow-up is also an important source of news.